Yes, fortunate enough to get a win here against Gardner-Webb. We didn't play as a clean a football game as we were hoping for, but what you put on tape is what we are, and that's where we are right now. We have to fix some things that stood out, some glaring things. Our offense didn't sustain drives or blocks, and then we had a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and that's not on the offensive line. That's on everyone. We were 4-13 on third downs and 3 of 3 on fourth downs, which resulted in 21 points. So we're happy with that. In defense, we created 3 turnovers. We didn't tackle well, and that resulted in 2 touchdowns and a field goal there at the end. But again, we were fortunate enough to get 3 turnovers, which all resulted in touchdowns, and then we were able to play a lot of backups because we had to establish some depth. So overall, we're not pleased where we are, but we were fortunate to get a win to move on to North Carolina.
Thank you very much, Coach. Our first questions come from Dan McDonald. Dan, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. What does it say about your team that they sort of find themselves behind all of a sudden in the third quarter, and then it's like the defense and I guess the offense too almost flipped the switch?
Yeah, our defense held them without scoring in the first and fourth quarter, and we had to make some adjustments. Again, that's a very good FCS team in Gardner-Webb. Trey Lamb does a great job of putting your defense in some binds, but I thought we did what we had to do to win, and that's positive. But the second and third quarter, we didn't play our best football. So looking back at the tape, there's some things we can adjust as coaches and things we can do better as football players. But the one thing was tackling. We weren't pleased with the tackling, and we weren't pleased with protecting our quarterback. We can't take a chance on getting our quarterbacks hit, the pressures and the sacks. But we can improve on that.
Was that your plan going in, to use both quarterbacks?
Ryan Berger was our starting quarterback, and he earned that through fall camp, but there wasn't much drop off with Joey, and it's the next man up mentality. And when Joey came in, he did what he's been doing in fall camp, and that's throwing touchdowns. And but that wasn't our plan, but we're glad it worked out that way.
I have to ask the obvious question: what's your quarterback situation going forward? Is Ryan still your guy for North Carolina? Yeah, we're going to find out. We meet with team doctors here in a little bit. We'll have a better answer for you after the 11:45 this morning. Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you, Dan. We'll go over to Shawn. Shawn, please go ahead.
Coach, you start off with 3 in-state opponents. So why is that important for your program to play those in-state schools?
I'm a big proponent of playing in-state schools, especially in our state. With we have 6 Division I football programs in our state. And I think it's great if you look at it. We have the second largest crowd in App State football history with 36,000 fans. We have a great student section, and we have a great following. You look, we'll sell out North Carolina this past week. We come back and play East Carolina the following week. That'll be maybe the all-time record, bigger than North Carolina last year. So I think it's great to keep the money in state instead of traveling all across the country. We can take a bus down to Chapel Hill or a bus to East Carolina, and I think that's what's nice with the Sun Belt. Even in conference play, on the eastern side, we can be anywhere within 5 hours, and our parents can come. Their parents can come watch them play, and then also our fans can travel.
And what have you seen from North Carolina and watching their season opener as you prepare to face them?
A much improved football team. You look at their offense; they're very senior-heavy graduates. They might have the #1 pick in the 2024 NFL draft at quarterback in Drake May. Their offensive line's experience, Chip Lindsey, who we all know from the Sun Belt. I think his play calling speaks for itself, and they're running the football more, and that's another dimension they haven't had in the past. They were more of an RPO style football team, and now they're running the football. And anytime you have a quarterback like Drake May, it's going to be we're going to have our work cut out for us. I mean, he can make throws that not many can at the college level, and that's why he'll be a first-round draft pick in the next year's NFL draft.
Dan, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I did. Coach, I was going to ask again about May. He sort of reminds me of maybe some of the guys that have been at App State in the past, plays like winners, does what he needs to do to get his team successful. What about him impresses you the most?
Well, we didn't know much about him last year. He played against Florida A&M before he came up here to Boone, and everyone knows he has a rocket for an arm, and he can make any throw from hash to hash, sideline to sideline. But the one thing impresses me is how well he runs, and that's one thing that he doesn't get enough credit for. And he can really stress the defense. He can pull it down and run. But it's nothing we haven't seen. We watched him throughout high school when he was there in Charlotte, and now he was a backup his first year. But there's a reason why he's on the Heisman watch list. There's a reason why he's going to be a first-round draft pick.
It was a great experience for our players, obviously, to take a cross-country trip, play against a really tradition-rich program in UCLA at an iconic stadium. And I thought our guys played hard. They fought the whole way. We had opportunities. We had chances. We didn't take advantage of those. But I'm proud of the way our guys played, and we just got to continue to get better, and looking forward to this week's game versus Jacksonville State.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. We'll go over to Dan McDonald to start us off. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
I know you're probably not happy with the way the running game produced, not getting a lot of numbers and so forth. Was there something that UCLA did, or is there something that that your guys need to improve on going into week 2?
I think it's a little bit of both. I give them credit. They really loaded the box on us heavily at times, and really did some good things to shut down what we were trying to get accomplished. And then we got to get better. They're very athletic, did a good job. Defensive line, they used their hands well, got off blocks and made plays. So there were some holes that just weren't open very long.
What about, can you assess the performance of Grayson in game 1?
I thought Grayson played well. I think if you talk to him and even for us, he has really high standards and expectations of himself. I think he missed some throws he wished he had back. But overall, he played tough. He hung in there. And he gave us opportunities to win the game. We just needed to connect on a few more and may have different results.
If I could ask one more, after a long road trip like that, I have no idea what time y'all got home finally, but how much will it help you playing these next 3 at home?
Well, it's going to be great. That trip, as I mentioned last week too, learning, being a new head coach and planning on something like that, it took a lot in preparation, and I'm thankful for our support staff. And it was a very smooth trip and transition, but obviously playing at home is a lot better because you don't have to go through all that. So we're looking forward to getting in front of our fans and taking a deep breath. And we got work, we got to get better, but get an opportunity to play out here on the surf turf.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thanks, Dan. We'll go over to Shane. Shane, please go ahead.
Yeah, Tim. This time of year, it seems like more and more you hear coaches, even players, kind of lamenting poor tackling early in the season. How much do you guys do preseason, just live tackling drills? And do you see that kind of in early season games as a lot of programs move away from tackling as much in practice?
Yeah, I have seen it. It's been an emphasis of ours to be good tacklers. I felt like it was one of the areas we needed to get better defensively at. And I was really pleased with our tackling. Our guys, our staff does a good job. We do a lot of simulating and bag work, but just teaching the proper mechanics, demanding the proper mechanics been done right. Even when you're tagging off, that you're in a good position, your knees are bent, you're in the position to make the play. You just tag off, as opposed to some guys that don't preach that. I thought we did a really good job. I was proud of our guys, the way we tackled.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Shane. We'll go over to Shawn. Shawn, please go ahead.
Coach, you've talked about how excited you are to be at Coastal Carolina. What's that first home game going to be like for you?
It's going to be fun. I'm excited to get in front of the fans, get an opportunity to, and we traveled well. I was very pleased and impressed. Our fans, we had a lot of people take that trip out to California, and you could hear them, especially in the third quarter. We were marching off our goal line there in a 14-13 game, and really started to feel a momentum swing a little bit in our favor. You could feel that. So I'm excited to get here in front of our home crowd and letting them go crazy here in Brooks.
And then with Jacksonville State, 2 games under their belt, 2 wins. What have you seen from them on tape?
We've watched some on them. Very explosive offensively. The quarterback certainly is a dynamic football player. Can play at most programs across the country. Well coached. Rich Rod and the staff he has put together has done a really good job. with them on offense, and defensively they continue to get better. They're quick and athletic. They do a lot of things defensively that pose a lot of problems for offenses. And we got to win the game. They're not going to give it to you. They're going to come in here confident. They're going to come in here, probably excited to have the opportunity to play us. So the biggest thing for me right now with our guys is just we got to make sure that we take care of ourselves, that we continue to improve and get better, and don't beat ourselves.
Got time for one more. We'll go over to Sam. Sam, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, bit of a familiar cast of characters on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, Clayton Isbell comes in, puts his name right into the Coastal Carolina record book, his first game in teal. Was he somebody you had identified in fall camp as a real difference maker for you guys on the defensive side of the ball? And what do you think of his performance this week?
Yes, sir. We did. Clayton came in and immediately just showed that prowess. He's very athletic, very instinctive. Can catch and can tackle. I think he led us in tackles as well for the game. I thought he had a really good game. One of the better defensive performances for a first-year guy in a program with a first-year defense. He played really, really well.
Got the dub Saturday. Didn't play very well in the first half. We did run the ball well, and our punt return game was good, but we didn't throw the ball effectively in the first half, and defense wasn't real sharp. Defense had a very dominant second half, held Bucknell to 1 first down and 4 yards. And Jordan McLeod came in the game, gave us a shot in the arm. We got going throwing the ball too, which, obviously was a must. So a lot of corrections, a lot of improvements to be made heading into our second game, and we're excited to go.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start off with Mike Barber. Mike, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. I'm curious, with everything that's going on at UVA, their first home game back after the tragedy last year. Do you have to talk to your guys about kind of the emotional setting that you're walking into? Do you downplay it? Do you, advise? How do you approach that?
We're really focused in on our prep in the game. It obviously was a horrible tragedy. When it happened back last spring, we prayed as a team for the individual, the families, all the people involved. Our focus will be on the football game.
In reviewing, and I don't know how far you've gotten into their Tennessee stuff, but defensively, they were strong last year. They showed flashes of being good defensively again. What challenges do they present on that side of the ball from what you can tell at this point?
I think they're very good on defense. Excellent. Veteran team too. A lot of 6th and 5th year players on offense also, but they've got good players. They're extremely well coached. They've got a good scheme. Their guys are smart. They're where they're supposed to be. A little bit of a bend don't break type of team. Didn't give up a lot of points last year. I think 24 games, something like that. Played good defense, really good. Their challenge.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go over to Noah. Noah, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, good morning. Do you have an update on either Solomon or Abby, kind of, from Saturday night?
Yeah, unfortunately, both those guys look like they've sustained significant injuries and probably lost for the season.
Go over to Greg. Greg, please go ahead.
Yeah, Curt, I'm just wondering what this opportunity against Virginia means from a recruiting perspective for your program, especially in state, given the chance to have a crack at one of the 2 ACC programs in the state. What does it mean from a recruiting perspective for James Madison to play this game, have the opportunity?
Well, I don't know. I haven't thought a whole lot about that, to be honest with you. It's our second game on the road against a real quality opponent. And it'll get a lot of attention in the state. So to be successful, would only help us, I guess.
And then their 2 quarterbacks, depending on the situation with Muskett's injury. What'd you see from Muskett, and then what'd you see from Calandria if you watched their tape versus Tennessee, the two quarterbacks?
Yeah, well, I remember Muskett in high school and followed his career at Monmouth also. And he's had a great career. He can really spin it, and he's very mobile. And the young guy, really gets the ball out of his hand fast. He's mobile too. I think they're both really good players.
Thanks, Curt.
All right, thank you, Greg. Let's go over to Jackson. Jackson, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. After the Bucknell game, you talked a little bit about how your team had a bit of a slower start in the first half. Is that something you're kind of hoping to sort of focus on this week in practice and remedy before the UVA game?
We always want to start fast and finish strong. And every single game. And I think Bucknell, we didn't start real fast. Am I concerned? No, I'm not concerned. I know that our guys are going to be 100% focused, ready to play this week. We got to have a great week of prep, be very detailed, and put it on the field on Saturday.
Thank you. We'll go over to Dan McDonald. Dan, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. After you've looked at the film and so forth, how do you assess your quarterback play?
Well, Alonzo Barnett had a terrific camp, a very talented young guy. And I think the entire staff really expected him to put that same kind of performance on the game field. I think the nerves may have gotten to him a little bit. We missed some throws in the first half that were pretty ordinary, that would have, got us humming. And so, he struggled a little bit. And midway through the third quarter, put Jordan McLeod in, an experienced guy. And he played well and gave us a shot in the arm. There were one or two he could have made, and that we're going to need him to make, and he will. So we'll start McLeod this week. He's been in the big arena before. He's played at Notre Dame and other places like that, and he's a veteran guy and a very confident guy too, and he's got good quarterback instincts.
Sure. Really good win versus a quality opponent. We enjoyed that win for 24 hours. A lot of posts, a lot of DMing to recruits, a lot of excitement around here. But obviously now we're on to UTSA, and they present a great challenge. Another really top 25 type opponent on the road. So just excited to go down to San Antonio and hopefully continue this momentum.
Questions? Thank you very much, Coach. We'll start off with Greg Luca. Greg, please go ahead.
Greg.
Yeah, GJ, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm great. Good to see you.
Of course, this week I had to check in and ask with you about your relationship with Jeff Traylor. What is it that has made that such a lasting connection for you? Yeah,
he's just the type of person he is. We're very like-minded. Just one of those guys that, you obviously he was my high school coach my senior year, and then, moving on and continuing that relationship with, and then coaching with him at SMU in Arkansas, and just the type of person he is, the type of family he has, just very like-minded, and just have so much respect for him. And I know everyone's written articles and all that, but man, just, I really do, I love him, and he's family to me. And obviously it's a really exciting time around here, but it's always, it'll be difficult, it's always just a unique situation.
How was he a resource for you as you were searching for your first head coaching jobs and getting settled into those roles at UIW and Texas State?
Yeah, he was huge in me getting both of those. Just the type of the name he has and the weight it carries in the state of Texas. He was a huge advocate for me, and called Duran at UIW and called everyone here and vouched for me, and so far so good.
Thank you. We'll go over to Joseph Lonergan. Joseph, please go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. The play that Joey Hobart made against Baylor made the rounds. Spectacular catch. Wonder if you could just kind of give us your reaction to that play and just the overall night he had.
Yeah, he's been since he got here in the summer, he's been making those type of plays, and he's an unbelievable kid. Kind of just a worker mentality. Great attitude every day, and just one of those guys that makes play. He's one of those guys that the moment's not too big for him. You can just tell, like, going into it, like he was just there's just another day at the office for him. And, you know, he's one of those guys that his level of play I think did this in that big time environment. So, you know, after a while, we really tried to focus on getting him isolated on their safeties, and he was able to make a couple of really good plays.
And of course, the UTSA matchup this week. What makes them difficult to prepare for from a personnel standpoint?
Yeah, I think offensively, they're really big up front, and that's the strength of their team. But they're really talented everywhere. I shouldn't just say the D line. And then offensively, anytime you have a quarterback like that guy, you know, it presents a huge challenge. And you know, they got a bunch of really good receivers. I think they're always, you know, Coach Traylor's always going to run the ball. So their running backs are really talented. They're just really well coached, really good players. So that's always going to present a challenge.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We'll go over to Jackson. Jackson, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. You know, you talked a little bit back at Media Day about, you know, the value of recruiting within Texas, and your guys' team motto is, you know, take back Texas. With, you know, a big win over Baylor, and then also you guys have UTSA this week. How important are those non-conference in-state matchups in terms of, you know, recruiting Texas guys?
That's a dumb question.
It's huge. It's one of those deals where anytime you can knock off a Big 12 opponent, you know, it's always going to raise some eyebrows around the state. And, you know, we've had a couple really big time, you know, prospects reach out to us, and we're obviously doing that, reaching out to a lot of guys, whether they're committed elsewhere or not, and just, you know, obviously letting them know that we knocked off a Big 12 opponent on the road, and the type of, you know, offense we're running, type of defense we're running. And I think it always helps when you're able to get a win. You can always talk about it in the recruiting process, but actually go out there and prove it is another thing.
Thank you.
We'll go over to Chuck. Chuck, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, GJ. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, how has your life changed in the last 48 hours? And, you know, how busy were you with media requests, everything else, and, you know, kind of Texas State blowing up overnight? And then secondly, how much has Lindsey Scott Jr. helped with the development of your new quarterback this far?
Yeah, definitely got quite a few media requests and radio interviews and all that. But, you know, you know, that's why I came to Texas State, because I knew what this place could be. Like I've said from the very beginning, if the right guy got this job, watch out. And you kind of saw it after the Baylor game, and you see the momentum that's building. Now, obviously, we play a really good opponent in UTSA, so it'll be quite the challenge. So yeah, I'm just really blessed and excited they gave me the opportunity to kind of do this. Yeah, Lindsey Scott is a rock star. I know he wants to play in the XFL, but, you know, we keep on winning. Maybe I can convince him to stay here.
Thanks, Chuck. Greg, I think you have a follow-up.
Yeah, just if we had any time, I wanted to revisit the situation with Jeff and ask if you guys, GJ, do you think you guys are going to talk this week, or how do you plan to handle that part of it?
I texted him before the Baylor game, and then he texted me right after the Baylor game. I texted Curt, he back and forth. I don't know. I'm probably not going to. I know I made a joke last week to Mike Craven that I was going to reach out to him, but I probably won't. Just kind of same thing when I played my brother last week at Baylor. I didn't talk to him really all of fall camp. So it's just one of those deals where it is what it is, and I'll see him and hug him on Saturday and hug him after the game.
Did those conversations, or kind of the flow of advice one way or the other, change once you ended up at one of his direct rivals now, or is it the same as it's always been?
No, I mean, I feel like it's pretty much the same as it's always been. You know, we talk about this, talk about that, and not necessarily recruiting, but, you know, hey, how do you do this? Because a lot of times I'm calling him to ask him questions like, hey, have you done this? You know, in this situation, what have you done? And obviously he's, you know him, he's very honest and very truthful, and he tells me direct whether I like it or not.
Thank you. And thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today. Do appreciate it.
Coach,
right.
One quick question.
Yeah, you good? I'm good if y'all want to keep going.
What about Titus Lyons? How is he doing?
Yeah. You from Pottsboro? You're the guy from Pottsboro? I like it.
Dwayne Wilder.
I like it. Nice to meet you. Yeah, Titus has been awesome. He's one of those guys that's he's a true hybrid type guy. When I got here, he was a walk-on, and I recognized really quick he would be awesome for our offense, and just an unbelievable kid, 4.0 student, FCA, really everything that you want in a student athlete, and he's been awesome for us, and played a whole bunch versus Baylor, and was key in our victory.
Yeah, good opening game for the Eagles. Good to be home. Really electric crowd, and appreciate our fan base for producing a really great college environment. A good win for us against Citadel. I'm really impressed defensively. What new defensive coordinator Coach Brandon Bailey has done with our defense to open up with a shutout. Really produced a lot of confidence for our team offensively. Thought we played clean football in the first half, had 4 drives, 4 scores, come out the second half, open up that second half with another drive score, and then got a little bit sloppy with penalties, which gives you something to coach off of really hard going into game 2. Obviously, big game for us with UAB. Obviously, Coach Dilfer last week put on a show of his own. With Jacob Zeno doing what he did, 38 for 41, going to be a big challenge for us coming into Statesboro. So it should make for a great college football game. With that, I'll take any questions that you got.
Thank you very much, Coach. We'll start off with Mike Barber. Mike, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. Kind of a big picture question, but you guys have what looks like a really smartly conceived conference there in terms of regional rivals. I know you have a few outliers in terms of Western outposts. When you look at some of the other things happening in college football, do you appreciate maybe what you have in the Sun Belt a little bit more?
Well, I tell you, one, you look at the Sun Belt, look what they did. I mean, look what we did this week. I mean, 10-4 on the week in the Sun Belt, plus a huge win by Texas State. Congratulations to Coach. That continues to show the strength of the conference in Power 5 play. I think that's 5 wins over the last 2 seasons thus far. And you look at the regional product that we turn out. It helps in recruiting, especially when you're playing those regional based. We go across 10 states. It's easy for travel and it's easy for recruiting, most importantly. So kids and parents can get to see their kids without having to go across the country. So, I've said this before. I think the Sun Belt is the premier Group of 5 league in the country. It continues to gain strength, and we can continue to build our reputation and respect by what we do on Saturdays. And I think you saw that this past Saturday.
You hit on my follow-up, but I wondered how often that comes up with families in the living room, the idea that not just your home games, so much of your schedule is accessible. I would imagine that is a pretty big selling point.
Oh, definitely. I mean, in the last 2 recruiting cycles, we've signed 55 young men from the state of Georgia, 87 on our team currently right now on our roster from Georgia. But then you look at where our other players come from. They come from Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, the attached states, so it represents the region that we're competing against. And it's easy for parents and loved ones to get down. And, I see our kids after the games, and when they're surrounded by their loved ones, and it makes it easier for those loved ones to get to Statesboro, Georgia. That's a good thing, So I think we do have an advantage in conference because of how we're situated. When I first took the job, I commended Commissioner Gill as well as our presidents for one, keeping the league all together while everybody was breaking apart, but then adding teams that were within our footprint. We strengthened our conference, adding JMU, adding Southern Miss, adding Marshall, being able to add Old Dominion. We strengthened our conference without getting outside of our footprint. So really well done by Commissioner Gill and our presidents.
Great stuff. Thank you, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go over to Joseph. Joseph, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Opened up last week with Citadel. Not the first time you opened up with an FCS team. Won't be the last, I'm sure. But what's it like kind of ramping up practice, going from an FCS opponent to an FBS opponent from one week to the next?
Yeah, obviously, our message last week was we were really focused on ourselves and competing against our standard. It wasn't about the opponent. I don't think we mentioned the opponent one time that whole week. We were trying to run our systems and play to our standard, offensively, defensively, and special teams. And for the most part, we lived up to that standard until late in the game offensively. But now you go into UAB, you still, I think you're coming in with two teams that do a great job of spreading the football around to different playmakers. We had 11 guys that we spread around to last week in the passing game. You look what they did in the passing game, 38 of 41 by Jacob. You know that it's going to be a little bit more balanced offense. Last week, playing Citadel, there was 14 yards of passing on 4 throws. There was a one-dimensional spread option offense, and now you got an offense coming in here that uses every inch of grass with tempo, as well as spreading the ball around. So is it different? Yeah, it definitely is different because of the style of offensive play. But still, we talk around here about living up and executing to our standard, no matter what the opponent is. And obviously we got to prepare differently systematically. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about us.
Thanks, Coach.
Got time for one more. We'll go to Dan McDonald. Dan.
Morning, Coach. Can you talk a little bit about the performance Davis had at quarterback?
Yeah, I thought it was a very mature, veteran-like, poised-like performance. I thought he managed the game extremely well. Had 2 touchdowns, had 1 interception on an underthrown ball, but didn't force. He found the one-on-one situation. He checked us into the right plays that needed to be checked. It was just a really veteran-like experience, to be honest with you. I can't complain anytime you come out as quarterback and your first 5 drives or scores, it's hard to argue with it. I thought he did a good job distributing the ball. 11 guys touched the ball in the passing game. And he had a great complement of being able to get to the run game when needed and using Jalen White and OJ Arnold as a weapon. When he got advantage coverages to hand the ball off, he got us into him. So really nice job by him. Very veteran-like experience.
Quickly, you mentioned the Citadel being one-dimensional. How important was it for your guys to get both the running and the passing game going?
Yeah, definitely. To have 200 yards rushing in the game, as well as 279 passing, I think it ended up being. It provides that balance. And a quarterback's best friend is a running game and running backs. And when you have Jalen White, who I've said this before, I think is one of the best backs in the country, along with a complement of OJ Arnold, guys that can run the ball, catch the ball out of the backfield. That balance is what we're looking for. And being able to take what the defense gives us. Everybody talks about, we're a passing team, and we are. And, by percentage, we'll have probably more throws and runs at the end of the day. But when you put 200 yards of balanced offense rushing the ball, that's going to help you at the end of the day.
Yeah, can you hear me now? All right.
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Yes. Well, we're just again trying to enjoy as much as we can the victory we had over Army. Of course, we're back getting ready for our next game now, but it sure was nice to get that opening home victory against an Army team that beat us last year and is always a very tough opponent to play. And then for us to come out and win it the way we did, you don't want to win it. We didn't really get our offense really on track till about 6 minutes left in the game. Down 13-3, we scored 2 touchdowns in the final 6 minutes, and then lined up to kick a field goal again, which I shouldn't have done. It got blocked, and won a big game for us. It was a great win for our players. Gave us a good start. We've opened so many seasons here with a big Power 5 team and had to overcome that opening difficulty there. And then to open up with a team like Army that just is hard to compete with anyway, and to get a big win there in front of our home crowd was an awful special night for our players. But now we've got to get down off that high and get ready for Lamar. And again, they come in as a team that we can't afford to overlook anybody. So it's a team that comes in here trying to come back from their tough opening loss to a very, very good Idaho team. And so, but anyway, had a big win for us and a great way to start the season.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start off with Luke Creasy. Luke, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned the way in which you won that game, and last year you were in a couple of games late and couldn't pull it out. Does that speak to the growth of this team from one year to the next?
Yeah, I just think it's, with so many portal transfers and different players playing, it is so hard to say how did this team improve from last team? So many different people. We're a better defense. We've got a bunch of new people there, and I'd say probably 9 out of, excuse me, I didn't turn my phone off, but I will. So many new people out there, but to say where we're different, defense seems to be much more athletic and played well and kept us in that game till our offense got off the track. So we were winning at halftime against Army last year. Then they just pounded us in the second half, and we were winning several other games. So hopefully that's an indication of our ability to play 4 quarters and to hang with people, and maybe get a few of these close games to fall our way.
Go to Dan McDonald. Dan?
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
I know the 2 late scores going to get a lot of notoriety, but
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about what your defense did the entire ball game? I mean, you kept them out of the end zone all night.
Yeah, I mean, you 5 turnovers. And when you create 5 turnovers, a good chance you're going to win. We had 2. We created 5. Our defense was on the field 13 minutes the first quarter, and 11 minutes the third quarter. And the weather kind of backfired on us because they were able to keep our defense was cramping up continually. We've been practicing in this hot weather, but because our defense just stayed on the field so long, they had to play a lot of subs. But that says a lot for us and the job that Vic Koenig, our defensive coordinator, did, and our defensive team, because our quarterback was just not throwing strikes. Just first start he's ever had, a little bit tight. We just weren't hitting balls we need to hit. And, but we stayed in the game, led for the first quarter at 3-0, and then threw a couple of picks and we got behind 13-3. But coming back with our backup quarterback, Hunter Herring, and scoring late like we did, said a lot for our team. But again, defense was the key to our victory. They continually held them out of the end zone.
And you talk about Hunter Herring's performance stepping in.
Right. Well, I mean, he came in and just he didn't play perfect. He just didn't make mistakes, and he made a couple of throws that were important. And then we hit a 62-yard run up the middle, and then on a critical touchdown pass, he throws a perfect sideline. Fade route into the end zone, inbounds that we had thrown earlier that was open. That went out of bounds and gave our receiver Ty Howell a chance to catch it, which he did. It was under review. It was a long time waiting, but it was a one-handed catch in the corner of the end zone. And I thought the most thing that I saw with Hunter is when I was on the sideline with him between series, he seemed calm and poised. And I think that's the thing that you want to see out of your quarterback, to be poised and calm out there in a difficult game.
Yeah, appreciate y'all being here to cover Sunbelt football. Happy to be 1-0. Beats the alternative. We played pretty average football on Saturday and found a way to win. We overcame mediocrity. We had 540 yards of offense to their 240, but we turned the ball over 4 times and tried to see how interesting we could make it. Put some young guys on the field late in the game and showed their youth and inexperience by not getting lined up very clean on defense at times and giving up some cheap points at the end. But we have a very formidable challenge ahead this week in Kansas State. I know they're ranked in the top 20. I hadn't looked to see where everybody's ranked right now, but I know they're up there somewhere. Really good football team. They return all 5 linemen. They're a big time opponent that we got to be prepared for. So it's a big test for us. Excited to go represent the Sun Belt against a quality opponent. So with that, open up to questions.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start off with Shane Melton. Shane, please go ahead.
Yeah, Coach. And you hear a lot, from different teams this time of year, especially in recent years, about kind of lamenting poor tackling first couple weeks of the season. Do you guys tackle as much in preseason practices as you have in previous years? And is that an issue that your staff kind of has to address?
Yeah, Shane, you must have watched our game. We didn't tackle very good. We only gave up 240 yards of offense, but if we tackled average, it probably would have been closer to like 180. Yeah, I think that, there's a balance. Like, we're able to do more in the summer now than ever. And football, the training has become more year round. You're also, I think it takes what it takes to get ready to play the game, and you do have to tackle. We do tackle during training camp, as much as the rules allow, but we also want to make sure we protect our players. Our proven players are going to tackle less than guys that haven't played a lot in games. So, like, for us, Javon Solomon, Richard Jubinor, Del Pettis, Reddy Stewart, they probably got, somewhere between 20 and 40 live reps in our 2 big scrimmages. And then some guys that haven't played as much, we let them play it like a game. So early in the year, that is one area where I think you got to clean up from week 1 to week 2, where you see a lot of improvement. Tackling is usually sloppy early in the year. And on our case, it definitely was on Saturday. We were poor in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. We'll go over to Craig Stevenson. Craig, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Kamani Vidal's been on a real heater, so to speak, going back to last year. Just what makes him greater as a running back?
I like that terminology, on a real heater. I like that. Kamani, very talented, physically gifted, Craig. He's like 5'8", but 215 pounds, very compact, well built, has great top end speed. It accelerates the top end speed very fast. Outworks everybody I've ever been around. I mean, you used to hear about Jerry Rice outworking the hard work guys. Same thing with KV, man. Like, if we have a 6 a.m. off-season team run, KV's in the weight room at 5 a.m., like rolling out, stretching, hydrating. I mean, his preparation's elite. He started last year a little bit limited with an ankle injury the first 4 or 5 weeks, and so didn't really appear like what we thought he could be. But you go back to the end of the last season and really the start of this season, playing at a high level. Not surprised, because he's an extremely hard worker and one of the best people on our team. I mean, he's a model citizen in our community, and very proud of what he's doing.
The other thing, the challenge of going on the road, especially to play an early game, what's the concern there?
Yeah, it's going to be warm. I looked at the temperatures. It's going to be about what it is down here right now in Manhattan, Kansas on Saturday. So the crowd noise will be one part that we haven't dealt with yet, that we'll practice this week. And they're big. Like, that's the biggest thing to me, is like they're substantially larger than we are, and we've got to hold up against their size. Maybe try to use some of our athletic ability to help us out, because I do think we're quick. But and just traveling the right way. We got a younger team. I like our talent, but we're a very young, unproven team. And so just getting those guys to travel like pros and handle it with maturity is a big thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go over to Dan McDonald. Dan?
Morning, Coach. How big was it for you? You talked about your missing tackles and so forth. How big was it for your defense to hold SFA to field goals and not let them? I think they only had really one sustained drive when it was really meant anything.
Yeah, well, they had one real drive that scored a touchdown against our main guys, and we had 3 penalties on that drive. I'm not going to publicly contest what those penalties were or weren't, but I'll handle that with Mr. McDade. But there was 3 penalties on that drive. They actually scored against our ones. The other drive they scored against us, we had like 9 freshmen on the field. And so a couple of those guys were 4-game guys that were probably redshirt. But and then when our there was one touchdown that our offense just decided to hand the other team the ball and let them run in and score, which was pathetic. And then the other, we got put on the plus side of the field a couple of times. We muffed a punt return with a backup punt return in the game, and did some things that were not real clean, and held them to field goals, which is always good, making them kick at field goals as opposed to letting them score.
Yeah, so kind of jumping right into conference play pretty quick here, having to travel to Old Dominion this week. So, like always, you get into the tape, you try to fix some things that you certainly have to fix, build off the things you did well. It comes at you pretty fast when you're talking about a conference game in week 2. There's not a lot of time to keep trying to get it right. We got to get some things fixed now. Got to execute better on offense just in general. And then, you got to keep building off the things you did on defense, fix some of the special teams miscues, and try to keep moving forward, try to find a way to start 1-0 in conference this week.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and start off with Dan. Dan, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. After you've had a chance to go back and look at it now, can you assess Ben's performance? He hadn't played in a long time, and you had him back out there, and it looked like you were giving him a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, like everything, there's some good and some bad in there. And, I was under no illusions that he wouldn't have a little bit of rust. I think he was, I think he thought he was going to, play lights out. And that's just the guy that he is. But truthfully, I thought he played well. He took care of the ball. The interception he was hit as he threw. He was going to the right spot. Really, we had a guy open behind coverage. He just got hit as he threw. So that's those things are going to happen every now and then. Went to the right spot with the ball. I did think that at times his accuracy wasn't what it has been, what it's been through fall camp. And I don't know if it's nerves or, just kind of the volume of the game, whatever the case may be. But, ultimately made good decisions, kept the ball out of jeopardy, whenever it was in his control. But we have to throw the ball more efficiently. And it's not just the quarterback. Certainly he's got to be more accurate in certain spots. The receivers and tight ends, running backs, whoever, have to make some catches that aren't exactly between the numbers. And then you got to protect better. So it's all the way around that, we've got to throw it more efficiently. But I thought Ben gave us a chance to do that. And, I know him, he'll be back at it this week, ready to, already started yesterday. So he'll be back at it, ready to go.
It seemed like you were trying to put him in, have him moving around a lot. Was that just what Northwestern was giving you, or was that sort of a design going in that you wanted to see what he could do, when he was moving?
Well, the thing that I talked to Ben about, and I think last year when Ben played, and particularly, when we played Marshall and that was his first start, I thought that kind of the difference in that game was that he sparked us because he was able to run the ball effectively. It's another dimension that when you add that to your offense, defensive coaches, they'll tell you that, it's a difficult thing to prepare for. So going into this season, I told Ben that if he couldn't do everything, run, throw, everything that he needed to do physically, then he wouldn't start the first game. I just didn't think it would be fair to him to have him in a limited role. Wouldn't be fair to our team. And so throughout camp, he handled the quarterback run game really well, made good decisions in that as well. So, I think I wasn't surprised, that he went out and played well and was effective with his legs. We're going to need him to be this year. That's just kind of the way the game's played a little bit.
Can you talk a little bit about the defensive performance? Northwestern's quarterback had a lot of experience at a couple of places, and you were able to pretty much keep them in check.
Yeah, we had a really good game plan on defense. I think it starts there. Defensive coaches did a really good job putting that thing together. Our front, I guess really six most of the time, or five, really with the boxes we were playing, did a great job controlling the line of scrimmage. Our defensive line got knocked back consistently. Our inside linebackers really had tough jobs. They had to fill gaps and they had to play, quick to the run. And, a lot of times your linebackers are guys that you're trying to hold up blockers for. This time they had to eat up some of those blockers. So they had a tough job and executed it really well. And certainly on the back end, I thought we covered well. We challenged them and covered them well. And then I think our safeties flew around and really made tackles. There were a lot of knockback tackles, which is what you always want. Those dirty 2 or 3 extra yards falling forward. They add up and and put you in unfavorable down and distances on defense when you're stopping people and you're thudding them and you're knocking it back. I think it gives you a chance to be ahead of the sticks. And you're talking about 3rd and long and 3rd and mediums, which are, certainly a better percentage of defensive success there. So I was really proud of them. We had a lot of new starters, first-time starters, a lot of guys that were playing for the first time significantly, and they handled, I thought, playing under the lights really well. Certainly there's some, like everywhere, there's a couple assignments and fits and things that got to be cleaned up a little bit. But, all in all, those guys really did a phenomenal job. The 3 sudden change stops were huge. You muff a punt inside the red zone. You have a fumble that goes back 70 yards or something like that all the way in the red zone. And then you have another turnover that ends up in the red zone. And for them to get 6 points out of 3 trips there, that's phenomenal. That's team football, and that's big time when your defense can step up and do that.
Yeah, good opening win for us playing Alcorn State. I think really good SWAC team, man. I got a lot of respect for Coach McNair and what they do. They play really hard. They're a good-looking team, and they play great defense. And it was good to get off 1-0. We got a tremendous challenge this week. I know you guys watched Florida State last night. They got a great football team. I got a ton of respect for Mike Norvell. Worked for him for a year, and a great offensive mind, great head coach, and they've got a phenomenal football team. So with that, I'll open it up.
All right, thank you, Coach. We'll start off with Heath Hinton. Heath, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Now that you've obviously seen game film, competition Tuesday, do you have any ideas in your mind where you want to see some competition on that day? Do you have any positions after watching film that you kind of maybe emphasize a little bit going into that?
I think that I think throughout our program we've got that. If you know that, I think Jay Stanley will start. And but I think on the offensive line we got some young old linemen that are starting to push to possibly be starters. That's not that the ones that started aren't playing well. I think at corner you still got intense competition. All 4 of those guys play pretty dang well, but we'll continue that going. And so those would be the big ones.
All right, thank you. We'll go over to Hunter Dawkins. Hunter, please go ahead.
Coach, good morning. The question I'm going to ask is, how do you make the team, not only do you work on getting them prepared from an FCS game versus a top 10 opponent, what's the message that you put out to them too this week?
Yeah, same as we always do. I talk about the previous game. We won 3 of our 4 planned to wins. We won third down. We won the explosive play battle, and we won the turnover takeaway battle. We did not win the red zone battle. That's been a point of emphasis this offseason. Now, we scored 2 touchdowns in the red zone, got called back penalties. That was tough. So that it was a little better than what it appeared. But we're playing what could make a legitimate argument is the best team in the country. They've won their last 6 games in a row last year. They were the number 1 offensive and defensive team in their conference. They've got 17 starters back, including their quarterback. They just, they got all they hurt LSU's feelings. So it was impressive. So they are a great football team. It's a tremendous challenge for us, and to go over there and play well and see if we've grown as a program from the last time we were in this position.
All right, we'll go over to Andrew. Andrew, please go ahead.
Hey, Will, any updates on Cole Cavallo?
No, I've got no update. Probably get a little update tomorrow, Andrew. But he's with the training staff working through it. It's a calf muscle pull, and so he's working through that. We hope to have him back soon.
We'll go over to Garrett Busby. Garrett.
Hey, Coach. As you're well aware of, the Southern Miss program, they have a really good history of not only competing with the big boys, but taking them down as well. Does that give you any confidence heading into Tallahassee after what we saw last night from them?
Well, we love our history here and our tradition. We sell that all the time. Garrett, we're trying to build back. What's going to be interesting to see for us, 2 years ago in our first year here, we went over to play Alabama, who was a top 3, top 4 opponent that was competing for a national championship, and we couldn't even, slow them down. We couldn't do anything. They were just way, way better than us. It'll be interesting to see 2 years later, as we go into year 3, we're going to play a team that's competing for a national championship. That's a top 2, top 3, top 4 opponent in the country. I think they'll make the playoffs for sure. It's going to be interesting to see if we've grown in, and now we can go over there and put ourselves in that. So that's something I'm looking forward to. There's going to come a day where Southern Miss is back in that arena and back able to do that. We certainly hope it's right now. It's going to see how much. It's going to be interesting to see how much growth we've had from year 1 to now. we're looking forward to the opportunity and the challenge.
We'll go over to Sam. Sam?
Hey, Coach Hall, how do you assess Billy's performance? First collegiate start, even though obviously he's had years of experience in the Clemson program and now coming over to Southern Miss. How do you assess that performance? And then how do you get him ready for kind of the jump from Alcorn to Florida State this week?
Well, he played phenomenal. He really did. He was accurate. He was on time. His eyes were great. He really only had 2 bad plays. The interception in the low red, we just threw it before the wideout was looking. And the wideout kind of, he took an outside release and he jumped back inside. So that's a tough deal on a quarterback in the low red as well. So it was a little bit on Billy and a little bit on the receiver. He played great. Played great, not just for his first start, just played great all the way around. So we were really pleased with that. Thought our kids around him played well. As far as getting him ready to play, we're going to do the same thing we do every week. We're going to watch the tape. We're going to put a plan together, and we're going to practice and try to put him in the best positions we can to be successful, which is going to be really difficult, versus a team, like I said, that may very well win the national championship.
First of all, happy Labor Day to everyone. So it's a good Monday here at Georgia State. First time since 2019 we've opened up with an opening season win. We played a pretty good Rhode Island team that came in here and gave us fits for the most part all day, but we came out victorious, 42-35, and it's just a nice way to start the season for our team. We had a little bit of adversity, a lot of things that we learned about our football team, but for the most part, we were pretty clean offensively, defensively, and special teams, and improved in a lot of those areas that we weren't very good at a year ago. Found some things that we need to make some adjustments on heading into our second game against Connecticut. But all in all, I was very pleased, and I think our football program took a step forward last week. Offensively, I thought we were very efficient, moved the football. It felt just like we were at practice. And defensively, we've got to handle our third downs a lot better. Kind of get our coverage situation straightened out. And then in the special teams, we actually had a great special teams. What I thought was a pretty good special teams day. We blocked a punt, but actually we got there so quick that we hit the punter right in the belly instead of hitting the ball. So we got a personal foul, which was very unfortunate. But progress is being made in that area as well. So we're getting ready for a good UConn football team. Played a North Carolina State squad pretty tightly last week, and I think they're much improved. I think their offensive line is one of the best. I'm telling you. They're a good offensive line group and unit up there. They're going to give us fits, but they're coming into our place Saturday night, and we look forward to another great home weekend, home game. I mean, we had a pretty good crowd, pretty energetic student body came out, and we're looking to build upon that and move forward and try to get our second win.
Hey, Coach, we'll start off with Luke Creasy. Luke, please go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, obviously when you look at what Rhode Island was able to do, not the only FCS team that gave some Sunbelt teams fits. Obviously, Marshall struggled against Albany at times, and App State even trailed in the second half there against Gardner-Webb. Does that speak to the level of, people talk about improving in the transfer portal at the D1 level, but that's also happening in the FCS. Do you kind of see that as well?
I mean, I think everybody's improving across the country with the transfer portal. You can go out, and if you do a nice job and research, you get some pretty good guys that can come in and make an impact on your team. But for the most part, Rhode Island's been last couple of years have been really solid. They played teams really hard, and I knew coming in they had a 7th-year quarterback that had won some big games. I mean, I think when he was in Maryland, he beat Texas twice, and he came in there and had our number defensively. I mean, he really did. We had about probably 12 critical missed assignments and pass coverage, but for the most part, he was fantastic. So I just thought they were a well-coached football team, and came in here ready to play. Good thing we were ready to play offensively and special teams, and we held up enough right there with 2 big turnovers. We had a turnover for a touchback in the end zone against Rhode Island, and then we also had a pick 6. So those things were huge. But yeah, Rhode Island's a much improved football team. I think anyone at any level can improve their football team if they're smart about what they're doing. I think it's so much easier to evaluate the transfer portal than it is the high school athlete. But they did a good job.
Go over to Stan. Stan, please go ahead.
Hey, Shawn, congratulations. Happy Victory Monday.
Yes, sir. It is Victory Monday. I've got the grill going. I think we have one college football game left, so we'll put that thing on about 7 o'clock as we're rounding out our work day. And you never know, Stan, you may need to come over and get you some barbecue or a steak.
Text me the address. We'll be right there.
Well, I believe you know where we are.
Hey, you had a lot of new faces starting on the offensive line, 400 plus yards, no sacks. How would you assess the way the offensive line played? And were there a couple of guys maybe that stood out that you could talk about?
Yeah, our offensive line, I thought played pretty well. Zero sacks. We had over 400 yards of offense. We were 35 points a game. I think we rushed the ball for 235 yards. Marcus Carroll ran for 184. Yeah, they were solid. They were really solid. I think first year starter John Brown, that's been around here for a long time, at left guard. Avery Reese, our starting center. Those guys stepped in there. Of course, Travis Glover at left tackle, Montavious Cunningham at right tackle. I didn't even have to think about them. I mean, I don't think there was any missed assignments for those guys, which is huge. And then also we played Tyden Ferris at left guard and Lamar Robinson at right guard. So we had 7 guys go in there and play last week. And I thought they played really well.
And the other place that you guys had a lot of new faces was on the kicking game, punter, kick. How'd you think those guys did for the first time up?
I think Cade averaged right at 47 yards a punt, and it was over a 40-yard net, so that was really nice. Liam stepped in there, handled our place kicking, didn't miss a kick, and our kickoff specialist right there, I think he had 4 touchbacks right there. Left a few out there in the middle of the field just from miss hits, but all in all, they did a really nice job. I was really pleased to see our special teams. Like I said, we had an opportunity to get that block in and got there really just too early and hit the punter instead of hitting the ball. Which was unfortunate, but our special teams did a nice job. Robert Lewis in the return game, our kickoff return game did a nice job. I think we were plus 46 in what we call the hidden yardage right there on our returns. So that was fantastic.
Are you going to keep returning kickoffs this year? Are you going to? That's a kind of.
I mean, it's always really been predicated on how well the kicker is. If the kicker is going to leave that thing about 5 yards short, then we're going to try to bring it out and get across that 25-yard line. If he puts someone that puts it right there at the goal line or 1 yard in right there, we're probably just going to fair catch that thing and start at the 25 instead of having to go beat our heads against the wall and try to give 25 yards when they give it to you for free.
Thanks. See you at the cookout.
Yeah. Thanks, Stan. We'll go over to Joseph. Joseph, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. In terms of UConn this week, what are you looking forward to in terms of just challenges for game planning for them?
Well, I mean, I think offensively from their personnel standpoint, they've got a lot of different formations and shifts. They utilize their 12 personnel so well from their offensive alignments that we're going to really have to be on our toes and have to adjust on that stuff defensively. There's one thing to be able to go out there and tackle and be out there and cover. There's another thing to be aligned and assigned to formations to give you the opportunity to be successful before you have to utilize those athleticism or the God-given talents that we have. So that's going to be a difficult task for us. We've had a little bit of extra work on it, over the weekend because we played on Thursday. Defensively, they're going to be a bigger, stronger, faster group than what we saw this past week. I don't think it's an unusual defensive front or coverage scheme or anything like that we haven't seen. But we've got to go out there and play, and we've got to play mistake-free. They're going to be hungry, of course. I mean, they're just like us. They're trying to build their football program. They were better a year ago playing in the bowl game against Marshall right there, and they're trying to build upon that.
Sure. Well, happy Labor Day to everyone. I hope you have a great holiday today. But, in terms of last week, and then we're moving on, is, in our program, we talk about playing to a standard and playing to an expectation, regardless what the opponent is. And we weren't able to do that. And I think, maybe on the outside, so many things are looking at it. And as a coach, what you have to do is what positives can you take away from this and how can you build upon the lessons that learn, and you can't waste a failure with everything that goes on. But I think the biggest thing is when you play a top 25 opponent, when you play a quality opponent like the University of Oklahoma, everything you do is magnified. So in terms of your mental disposition, your fundamentals, your details, your effort, your toughness, your ability to sustain, the ability to focus, play in and play out, all those things are magnified. And when you don't do that, you get exposed. And I thought there were times, obviously, that we got exposed, but that's what happens when you play a team like Oklahoma that has really done a good job. They're not the same team that you saw in video a year ago. They're a very solid football team in all three phases. But the challenge now as a coach is what can you take and build upon that? And you have to rely on your past experiences. And I think that's where experience kicks in. Our first year at Central Michigan in 2007, we went to Clemson and had basically the same result. We lost 70-14, and that team came back and went to a bowl game and won a championship. And that was really kind of the mindset, what really kind of changed us, because we talk about a style of play and we talk about a mentality. Well, now they went against somebody that really kind of embraces what we want. So it's all in how you move forward. And our players are resilient. They're very prideful. They understand. So I know we're all looking forward to getting back against another quality opponent Saturday with Memphis.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start off with Luke Matheson. Luke, please go ahead.
Hey, Butch. So you mentioned finding the positives. One positive I saw was that offensive line. We spoke a lot the last couple of years about needing protection and quarterback sacks. That did not happen Saturday. I know that's got to be something that you liked. And also you mentioned the resiliency. How did the team respond in team meetings last night?
Well, they responded very well. And again, they're a good group of kids. They're very prideful. They understand. And there was great illustrations, and we kind of showed them exactly, what it goes. When you go on the road, you're responsible for creating your own momentum. And, obviously getting off to a fast start is part of it. But even when things go wrong, you can't blink. And I think everything started to snowball a little bit, and they came out and, we knew they were going to attempt the deep ball early. We knew they were going to get their crowd in the game early, and we just didn't respond the way that I had hoped that we would respond. So again, you have to learn from it and move forward. In terms of the offensive line, you're exactly right. I thought they did some really good things. We still need to run the ball more effectively and more efficiently, but we were able to have pretty much a clean pocket. I thought our backs did a good job for the most part in picking up the pressures. And that's what another challenge of Oklahoma is they present so many different looks defensively for you. So I thought the offensive line in terms of handling the pressure situations did a good job with that.
Thank you. We'll go over to Logan Whaley. Logan, please go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Just wanted to ask. Hey, just wanted to ask about. You mentioned on the press conference Saturday that you'd watch the film and see who would respond, who competed. Did you see anybody that competed on Saturday, and if so, who? And then second part, just wanted to see where the team was at, just as far as health and injuries go.
Yeah. In terms of competing, there were times where everybody competed, but again, the standard is to do it for 60 minutes. And I think that's the mental disposition. That's the mental toughness that's associated with playing football. And so we did it in spurts. There wasn't anybody that did it on a consistent basis. I thought Tennell Bryant, even though he turned the football over, true freshman out of Cincinnati Moeller, I thought he looked like he belonged on the field. I think he's going to add another element to us offensively in moving forward. But I think the biggest thing is just consistency and performance. Didn't see it play in and play out. You saw little spurts that we can build upon and show them, hey, this is what happens when everybody executes their assignments. This is what happens when everyone's in their gap. This is what happens when you're 11 for 11 on every single play. Good things are going to happen. So again, been through this situation before, been there, done that. It's really kind of helped change kind of the direction of our program. Every place that we've been, this has happened. And again, it's the small intangibles. It's laying on the ground. It's getting up off the ground. It's competing and getting off blocks. We didn't strike blockers. We didn't get off blocks. On the perimeter, we didn't get off blocks at the DB position. Offensively, we had too many drops out on the perimeter. That stifles momentum, not a lot of consistency in the throw game. So all those things that we need to work on to get better in terms of health wise. We'll know a little bit more later in the week with that. Obviously, the associated nicks and bruises that go along with playing a physical football team like Oklahoma. So I'll know a little bit more later with that, and where we're at with the injury situation.
Luke, did you have a follow-up?
I did. Butch, I just wanted to ask about Memphis. Obviously, first home game of the year this year. What are you seeing now with the Tigers, and what do you guys got to do this week to get ready for them?
Yes, well, another challenge coming into Centennial Bank Stadium. Very talented football team. They have a quarterback that, is a 3-year starter. Has really started as a true freshman, and he manages their offense. He's like a coach on the field. Typical Memphis football team, big in the lines of scrimmage, very active, very physical. And then I think the biggest change is greatly improved on special teams. I think in their first game, they did a really good job in terms of their punt return team being physical at the line of scrimmage. So I think the special teams game is going to be another challenge for us, but a typical Memphis football team, big, strong, fast, physical. So it's going to be another challenge for us. And as we all know, we've had 2 years who basically the game has come down to the final possession of the game. So again, it's what is our mental disposition? Can we go through 4 quarters if it takes overtime, whatever it takes to move forward?
Yeah. Obviously it was a great atmosphere in Lane Stadium. I thought our kids responded to the atmosphere well, but ultimately we didn't do our job enough in order to compete on the road against that type of opponent. Gave ourselves a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter, but we just we didn't finish the way we needed to. And so looking forward to getting in front of our home fans here in SP Ballard Stadium, and obviously starting the league schedule against Louisiana is going to be an awesome deal.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. Mike Barber, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. I'm curious, now that you saw them last year, saw them this year, the job Brent did kind of just bringing some more pop to that offense, some more playmakers. How different were they personnel-wise this year than a year ago?
I mean, yeah, those 3 wide receivers changed the dynamic of that offense. I thought Coach Pry and Coach Mines did a great job of going out there and getting 3 guys who can make plays, and they did that. Obviously, the running back was a great player as well, but I think that getting those 3 wide receivers really changed the way they can play on offense.
And a big picture question, just the makeup of your conference. We're seeing in realignment, the kind of conferences going anywhere and everywhere to find teams. Certainly, at least in your half of the league, the East, it's very regional, great rivalries, probably good for recruiting. How much do you appreciate the I guess vision or the makeup of the Sun Belt?
No, I think that Commissioner Gill and the presidents of this conference really deserve a lot of credit, because this is we're still college football. We're a regional conference, and I think it helps our fans have a passion for the game. I think it helps our players in terms of travel and still be able to be student athletes. And I think it's just another reason why this is the greatest Group of 5 conference in the country.
Thanks, Coach. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go over to Joseph Lonergan. Joseph, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Got home opener this week. Last couple home openers for you guys have been really fantastic atmospheres. What are you looking forward to over the next or in that game, rather?
Yeah, I think it's going to be something different for our fans to be able to open with a conference opponent. So that's going to be pretty special, and obviously a lot of conferences across the country are opening or having conference games earlier and earlier and earlier. I know this one's kind of due to a little bit of a schedule quirk, but I think it's something that we can, continue to look at as a conference and because it does, provide some pop early in the year and really get our fans going.
And one more for you, Coach. You participated in a story that Underdog Dynasty ran last week about your travel to become the new head coach a couple years back. And one thing that stood out to me there was killed a lot of time with some PlayStation over the summer while you're preparing there. What's the go-to game? Just got to know.
I mean, I'm more of a 2K guy than anything, although I do play the show quite a bit too. And my guys, last time I played, I haven't played for a little bit. My guy got into a little bit of a slump there, so I got to get him going again. But and then I was big on Assassin's Creed, particularly Valhalla, which I think is the greatest game ever made. Well, right behind Red Dead Redemption. Those are the two best games ever.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, we'll go over to Luke Creasy. Luke, please go ahead.
Coach, obviously, Grant Wells there at Virginia Tech. You've seen him now for a couple different teams, a couple different times. How has he grown as a quarterback? And maybe what did you see from him Saturday that you hadn't seen from him before, or something different?
I don't know if he's. I don't want this to come across the wrong way. I don't know if he's grown so much as I just thought he executed really well in that game. He's always been able to throw it. I thought his guys got open for him. I thought that Coach Bowen called a nice game and gave him some quick throws and those sort of things. But I thought he just executed, and when his first read was open, he threw it. And I think that was really we probably we needed to find a better way of getting him to his second and third reads. But I thought he did a really nice job of not being greedy, and his first read was open. He took it, and good for them.
Yeah, well, happy Labor Day to everyone. I hope you guys are enjoying your time off that you guys get that we don't. But happy to be here, 1-0. Looking forward to a really competitive game against a good East Carolina football team. Coach Houston's done a phenomenal job since he's been there. His teams always play tough. Offensively, they've been really good. Defensively, they are creative. They have a lot of variables, put you in a lot of different scenarios. Test your rules. So we got to go down and execute really well. We got to have a great week of practice in order to do that.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start off with Luke Creasy. Luke, please go ahead.
Coach, I like to dig into numbers. Just looking at the number of plays you guys were able to run Saturday, it was 61. That's the fewest you've had in a win as the head coach. Did you notice a difference with the clock rules and how you kind of manage the game? And do you see it playing a factor moving forward? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, not so much in the clock rules, but more in the game plan and the mindset that we had, what we wanted to do offensively. I think the clock, obviously it's going to affect the game, but I don't think it's going to be monumental. I don't think people are going to, look up and say, oh man, we didn't get to run 20 extra plays. I think what happens is, especially in the first half, you kind of look up and you're already in the second quarter, which kind of puts you in a different mindset. And then really, it really started kind of playing to me in the back end of the game when you're just outside of 2 minutes and you're trying to run the clock down. We didn't have the ball at that time, but you're just outside of 2 minutes. And the clock's going to keep running. So you're able to steal, 10 or 15 seconds, depending on how the flow of the game goes. Just because of that. But I don't think, just for me personally, what we do doesn't really affect it drastically. I do think there are some teams that, are super up tempo and those type of things that it might, but for us, not necessarily.
Thank you. We'll go over to Shawn. Shawn, please go ahead.
Coach Marshall is such a storied program, and people know all the statistics and everything behind that. But what was it like to be part of the program's 600th all-time win on Saturday?
It's humbling. Obviously there's a lot of history and tradition here that's long before me. And sometimes, I have to stop and take a deep breath and really say, I'm a part of something special. I'm a part of something that changed not only college football, but the world's, perspective on sports and athletics, and really bound the country and the community together. And then you think back, from the plane crash to now, and you say, wow, 600 wins. That's a lot. That's a lot. So I'm humbled, honored to be a part of it. It reminds me every day why the expectations here are so high. It reminds me every day why what I get to do is the best job in America, and why my impact on not only this university, this community, but this football team is so important.
You were really tested by Albany in that game and showed a lot of resiliency. what will you take away from finding a way to win that game that will help you throughout the year?
I think, one, we were able to win the game. And, the things that you don't really kind of see on film is the culture on the sideline, the culture in the locker room. There was never a moment of panic. There was never a moment of, hey, what's going on? Wake up. It wasn't that. It was, hey, we've missed some opportunities and we got to, continue to play better. For me, when you look back at the film, there's 3 or 4 plays there that if they go the right way or we don't self-penalize ourselves, it's a totally different game. And when we watched it with our players, we said the same thing. But for our players not to quit, and this is probably the first time in a long time, I don't know, at least since I've been here, that the offense was able to come back and kind of get 3 unanswered. Usually around here for us, it's been the defense has been able to get a big turnover or a big stop and, change the game. Offensively, after halftime, we were able to kind of get it rolling and defense did what they typically do. And it just really shows us that, hey, when we do execute, play with discipline, do what we're supposed to do, we can have success. And then it also shows you that, hey, you don't want to be in those situations if you don't have to. So if you don't have, the penalties at the beginning of the game or the slow start or whatever it is, then you don't have to be in those situations. But I think you can learn a lot from it.
Thank you. We'll go over to Sam. Sam, please go ahead.
Coach, how unique is it for you guys to have, a hometown guy like Owen Porter on your team, have such a great performance in this game, and then come up with really the big play at the end to close it out for you?
Yeah, I think, again, I watched Owen all summer out my window work his tail off. I watched him for the last 2 weeks. He's got a cot or a blow-up mattress. He's sleeping in the D-line meeting room watching film. And it's just when you put in the work, when you do what you need to do, the game rewards you. The game rewards hard work and effort. And obviously, right, everybody in the country knows who he is. So, sack numbers wise, he may not have the same amount of sacks, but he's going to have the same effect on the game because now people understand you got to have a plan to block him. His relentlessness, even on that last play, I mean, he was by the quarterback. He fought back to get in position. I mean, he wasn't even the guy that was designed or in position to get the sack. It was the effort. It was the understanding of the game situation. It was the film watching. And those are all things that, when you have a player like him that does those things, you love to see him get rewarded.
And then how important is it for you, obviously, to get the win? Your key players and your leaders, Rasheen Ali, Owen Porter, that we just talked about, stepping up to make sure you guys could finish off with a win and get on to week 2.
Yeah, we talked in the summer about, just having, the leadership and what leadership really means. And sometimes leadership is when there's a play that needs to be made, you got to make it. When there's a shot that needs to be made, Michael Jordan was going to take the shot. When there's a play that needs to be made, one of our leaders has to make it. And that doesn't mean that Owen's got to go over and become the running back, but Owen needed to make a play in the 4th quarter on that last drive. Ali needed to make some plays in the second half in order for us to get the lead. And I think when you have that type of leadership, sometimes people just think of leadership as the person that, gets everybody to do the right thing, says, hey, dude, jumping jags. Hey, we're going to be here at 8 to watch film. Sometimes leadership is making the play, and that's part of it, but there is an active part of that leadership. And I think that's what you got a chance to see Saturday night.
Yeah. Obviously a very, very disappointing loss for our football program starting off in the season. Thought when you look at the film objectively, there was probably a lot more positive than there was negative. With the exception of probably 6 plays on defense and really probably one person in each of those 6 plays just not doing our job. I honestly not anything specifically that we felt like schematically presented issues. I just think we had some really good, some of our more trusted players that start, maybe pressed a little bit early. And some of those first game jitters, and it was very costly for us with explosive plays over top. From an offensive perspective, very similar. Really were able to move the ball effectively when we did not turn it over and when we did not have operational penalties. And so late in the game, we took a couple of sacks when we were pressing, doing all that stuff. Also threw an interception late in the game when we were pressing as well and down. But really, the disappointing thing and the hard thing, right, is that those errors were very simple. The positive thing is that those errors were very simple and easy to correct moving forward. And so I think if we really look at how we get this team better moving forward, we just go right back to work. We get the things fixed, we address them, we make, little things to help just make sure our guys have their eyes in the right place, that they're doing the operational things right in terms of pre-snap communication offensively, and then go back to work.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. We'll start off with Hunter Dawkins. Hunter, please go ahead.
Coach, how are you going to go? How are your coaching staff going to get the guys prepared for an FCS team, but knowing that you have in the future another Big 5 opponent the week after?
Yeah, I mean, you have a group of guys that know that there was a big opportunity that they let go beyond them. And so I think there's a pretty frustrated group of guys that are ready to get back out on the field. So even just in jog through today, you saw the guys very locked in, disappointed in their mistakes. All of us, right, are disappointed in the mistakes we made, but also very aware of how to correct them. And I think ready to do so going into this week.
Have y'all watched film on Southeastern yet?
Yes, we have. You look at this team, I think they went 9-4 last year, went to the first round of the playoffs. Very talented roster. They're in our regional footprint, and they have done a good job of evaluating, identifying talent and developing that talent. I think sometimes FCS programs get a stigma that they're a lesser talent and all that stuff. I don't think that's indicative of this program. I think their frames and the athleticism is very similar to what we face week in and week out. I think the score against Mississippi State at the end, you look at halftime, it was a 10-7 ball game. They played really well for a half, and then, like you see often, depth between an SEC team and an FCS opponent starts to separate itself in the late third, early fourth quarter. And so that's kind of more where the score, you see that those guys got wore down a little bit. But a team that both schematically and from a talent perspective can present a lot of challenges to you. So I do not see this program being in any way focused on anything other than what we need to do to beat Southeast Louisiana.
Thank you. We'll go over to Sam.
Coach, you talked about a lot of the positives you could take away from the Tulane game. One seemed to be the takeaways on defense, 3 fumbles forced. Is that something you guys kind of talked about in fall camp as an area of growth for the team, and is that something you expect to continue throughout the year?
Yeah, I think we have been a very aggressive defense that has created and worked to create takeaways both in the run and pass game. I thought we did that in the run game. If our players on the back end are being honest, I think maybe that's part of our problem of giving up those explosive plays where they were trying to do too much early. Great players want to make plays, but some of those great players are still, they're still young and they got to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And I think that's probably what we saw is routine, run of the mill, post safety, do your job plays, and guys are getting a little bit nosy and trying to do something that we're not asking you to do in that given defense. And so they'll get it corrected moving forward, and they will make plays in the back end just like we did up front in terms of creating some takeaways. And so it was nice to see, but we also got to make sure that we let those plays come to us and we do our job first and foremost.